All right, let's get everybody in here. Come and say hello. You know, it's kind of funny. I feel like this should have been in the morning, but with everybody in different time zones, it's hard to actually do these in the morning and be fair to people across all time zones. So it's kind of interesting with the title "Start Your Day," but it's like 1 o'clock Central. Um, Good afternoon, everybody. Good morning to some of you. Good evening to some of you. I know we have people from around the world. I want to thank you for joining me today. We are going to get started here in a minute, but while people are starting to join us from their different locations, I want to have an opportunity to just kind of check in, see how you're doing, see how your 2021 has started off, see um, all of that. So go ahead and tell me in the chat where you're from. Let me know kind of where you're joining us from today. I'm trying to figure out how to get back to my chat button here. Oh my Lord. It's driving me everywhere. I am jumping everywhere. Sorry. I'll figure this out eventually. So tell me, let's hear a little bit about where you guys are here from today. I also want to, I'm going to start with a poll question and then we'll kind of get kind of officially going here. So just kind of curious on your plans for 2021 off of Amazon. Just kind of curious how many of you are already doing web commerce, how many of you are planning to do web commerce, how many of you aren't planning to do e-commerce. Just kind of curious where everybody is at with that. Thought that'd be kind of a good question to kind of start launching ourselves into here. I want to give everybody a minute to get on. We're going to cover a lot of topics, mainly around the concept of kind of like a fresh start. So I asked you guys this question during the sign up process, and we're going to dive into some of your answers around your goals for 2021, or if you have them. And we're going to dive into why they're important and really, most importantly, how you can use technology to improve what you're doing. So right now, about 85% of you already have your own e-commerce website, but about 10% are planning to add one and 5% do not. So interesting statistic. I've asked that question in previous and it's been totally different numbers. So it's kind of great to see that. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. I want to welcome everybody to our webinar today, Start Your Day with Seller Labs. The concept of this webinar came up as we were looking at planning for 2021 and understanding how Amazon sellers plan not just their year, but how they plan their day. And I had an opportunity to speak with a number of Amazon sellers, and I asked them, and I have been asking them this question: how do you start your day? How do you plan your day? And what I found was that if I looked at top sellers in the Amazon ecosystem, I saw some consistencies of what they were doing. And I thought it'd be interesting to pull those consistencies together and to share them with everybody, for everybody to kind of see what a successful seller is doing to start their day. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Jeff Cohen. I'm the Vice President of Marketing at Seller Labs. I've been in the e-commerce space since 2005. My first e-commerce site, textbooks.com, which means I've been around in the Amazon ecosystem for some time. Started in the textbook space and was doing online arbitrage from USPS auction to private label to branded products. So I've evolved with the industry as the industry has changed over the years. Ran multiple Amazon businesses, as well as been involved with Seller Labs for the last 7 years in helping to educate and work with Amazon sellers. Today, Seller Labs, for those of you that are not aware, has an all-in-one system for managing your day-to-day activities on Amazon and optimizing your profit and your sales. And we'll get into that a little bit as well. So the question is, what does your morning look like? Now, a lot of times when you ask this question and you talk to people about what does their morning look like, you get answers like, I wake up at 5 o'clock, I go for a run every morning, I like to meditate. And I think those are great answers, but I want to take that a step deeper and say, what does your morning look like when you step in to work on your business? Are you one of those individuals that prepares a to-do list the day before? Are you one that uses your email list as your to-do list? Meaning that you sit down and you start going through your email and you let email kind of dictate what's important to you based on what's come in the night before. Do you have a set of reports that you look at? Do you have a set of reports that are prepared for you, maybe by a VA overseas, or a set of tools that you look at that help indicate how your business has been doing, or how your business was doing, or what potential issues and concerns? Now, if you're like me and you have an Amazon business, you probably start out by looking on your Amazon seller app. And so Amazon has made this really simple today for us to just grab our cell phone, for us to pull up the app and see, how do we do today, or how did we do yesterday? And how does that look in the last 7 or 30 days comparison to the time period before? And this is a great tool, and it's one that I frequent numerous times throughout the day because it gives me that quick snapshot of kind of how is my day doing. The problem with this app is that it doesn't give us a holistic picture of how our business is doing. It just gives us a general sense of how our sales are doing. Now, before we can actually step into measuring success and determine whether the day before was actually successful, we have to know what we're measuring. And this is a critical component with any Amazon seller that I've spoken to, is that they have very specific criteria that they're using to measure the success. And this all starts with goal setting. Now, I'm going to ask Caroline to come on here, and I promised her I wouldn't have her come on to video, but just come on to voice. And I want Caroline, you to share some of the goals that the participants in this webinar shared with us in terms of goals that they've set when we asked the question of your goals for 2021.
Sure, and I won't attribute these to anyone, but we'll just share a few. Some made me laugh and some were amazing. I mean, everyone's goals are amazing, so thank you guys for sharing. Make more profit. Grow Amazon sales from 12K a year to 12K a month. Open a website away from Amazon. Launch a private label product. Quit my 9-to-5. Reduce tacos. Make 6 figures on Amazon. Golden State Warriors win the title.
Wait, we said that we wanted people to tell us their well, I guess everybody's got to set their goals, right? And have their priorities. Well, I know we've gotten more and more we could continue to read through, but I wanted to give you guys a little bit of a sample of some of the goals that your peers on this webinar have set. Now, you'll notice that with some of these, they were not specific enough. Growing your sales is not specific enough. It's very difficult to measure a goal like that. Versus generating $1,000 a month in net income is very specific. It's very measurable. Now, you will know whether your goal is obtainable or not. There are a couple of different philosophies around goal setting. One is called the 10X factor, which is that if I want to get to $1 million in sales this year, I actually want to target $10 million in sales this year, because if I target $10 million in sales and I fail because I only get to 2, that's a lot better than setting $1 million target and only getting to 900,000. So you have to kind of know for yourself how you're motivated by the goals that you set. But for what we're trying to show today is that it's important that when looking at your goals, that your goals are specific enough that you can measure them. Because if you cannot measure them and put them in a timely manner, then it's very difficult to look on a daily basis and understand whether you're moving towards achieving your goals. Now, within Amazon, there's all different types of goals that we can be setting. And so it's easy to just come out and say, I want to increase my sales. But what else needs to happen, right? So we heard some very specific goals, such as I want to improve my tacos. I want to improve my total advertising cost of sale. But how all of these things ultimately work together is what ultimately ends up leading towards the success of our goals. And so I would argue that while you may have a large goal or a larger goal in mind when setting goals, you need to have specific goals along the way that are going to be the trigger points to tell you whether you're going to hit the numbers that you hit. Because if you're able to 10x your sales, but at the same time you lose money, you still accomplished your goal, but maybe your goal wasn't set correctly. So many times in setting of your goals, you need to have multiple goals set to understand whether you will be successful when you hit those goals. So just some of the types of goals you could be thinking about: sales, profit, ad spend, tacos, number of reviews, number of new products that you're launching, the sales rank for a particular product. But ultimately, all of these come together to ultimately make the type of goal that you want to measure. When it comes down to it, a goal without a plan is just a wish. Now, something I've used in webinars in the past is this idea of what we call the hope strategy. The hope strategy is that I hope I get to a certain level of sales. I hope I get to a certain amount of profitability. So once we have our goal, we need to start and take steps back to understand how we're going to get to the goal. When it comes down to it, our success is not linear. If we are going to do $1 million in sales in a year, we will not do 888,000 every month. We will have some months that are well below the 88,000, and we'll have some months that are well above the 88,000. Only you know what your success ultimately looks like. Only you know what the trajectory of your sales are going to look like. Are you a holiday product that's going to do 60% of its business between November 1st and December 31st? Are you a spring product where most of your sales are going to occur between March 1st and June 30th? These are the things that are critical in understanding how you're going to measure your success so that you can start to break down your success in a way that will mimic the way your business is going to work. Now, if your business has been around for a period of time, you have the past history where you should be able to chart what your past success looked like to start to gauge what your future success needs to look like. Are you looking at a 20% month over month growth? Are you looking at a 200% month over month growth? And when it comes down to it, this is ultimately what's going to tell you whether your goal that you set is actually obtainable. So if you're looking to 3, 4, 5x your sales, but you don't have a target traffic plan to bring in that growth of sales, then you're still going to fall short, and you need to go back and question yourself as to how you're going to get to the success that you're trying to achieve. Now, the thing that we have to remember is that all products in our catalog are not created equal. We're going to talk about a principle called the Pareto principle, and the Pareto principle is a basic 80-20 rule. And if we start to dissect our catalog, we can break it into what we call the head, the torso, and the tail. And a catalog of products or items that you're selling will all fit into this analogy that I'm using. And it's critically important that you understand how many products you have in each of these sections and how they're going to perform and what the goal is for each one of them. So the head is the most important part of your catalog. These are the ones that are your high velocity ASINs. These are the ones that have your high profit. These are the ones that also have high competition. These are the products within your catalog that you never want to run out of stock and you never want to get them suspended. When it comes down to it, and you have this large catalog of information of products that you're selling, it's nearly impossible for you to be successful for every product that you bring forward. But your head, the top 20%, is what will generate 80% of your sales. So it's not just critically important to understand what these are, but it's critically important to have a plan for each one of these so that you ensure that the head of your catalog is driving your sales in the way that you're expecting. Now, the middle is the torso. This represents around 70% of your catalog, but it's not going to represent 70% of your sales. Now, these products may be products that are still growing, right? They're newer to the market, or maybe they've lived their life and they're tailing off, but they still are making you money. The profit is consistent. These are still products that you want to be managing from an inventory perspective. But if something's going to slip, you're willing to let the torso slip a little bit more than the head, because the head is just too critical to your business. Now, some of the products in your torso might be on their way up and might be future head products. And some of the products in your torso might be on their way down and might be towards the tail. And it's critical that you identify the different parts of your catalog to understand how you're going to manage each of them. Because in the end, you only have a certain amount of time, you only have a certain amount of effort, you only have a certain amount of dollars that you can be spending. Do you want to be spending that on products in the head of your catalog or the tail of your catalog? Now, this is where the products live that can't realize a profit, that are sucking up your time but not generating you any money. And one of the hardest pieces for an Amazon seller to understand is that their crap inventory, the tail part of their catalog, is the catalog that they need to get rid of to free up warehouse space, inventory, mind space, dollars to focus on the head of their catalog. It'd be beautiful for everybody to be profitable and successful with every product they ever bring to market, but that's just not the reality. And this is where we have to know our numbers. We have to understand our projected sales per month, our target profit margin, our organic to sale ratio, our tacos, how much advertising we're willing to spend in something. You have to understand the numbers for each of the products in your catalog so that you can understand if something's performing at the level that it should be performing at. Because remember, we're talking about starting our day. We're talking about getting started with our business each day and knowing where to focus our energy. And if I have a product and I wake up today and I have a product that has a title change, has an image change, has been suspended, is running low on inventory, I have to be able to quickly assess where that product is in my product catalog and how much energy and effort I want to put towards that product. Because if I start working on my biggest problem every day, but my problem is not tied to the value of that problem or the value of that product, then all I'm doing is letting my inbox run my day. And that is one of the most costly mistakes we can make. We can't just wake up in the morning and have our inbox run our day. We need to have our numbers run our day. We need to have our numbers drive us in a direction that has us working on what's going to increase our profit, increase our sales, increase the bottom line of our business. And that's what's critically important. Now, there are many parts to managing a business. I only listed 9 here, but I could have kept going. So you've got accounting and tax, sales, advertising, communications, listings, competitors, inventory, staffing, on and on and on. These are all the things that we as business owners have to do to run our business successfully. How do we know where to put our time, where to put our energy, where to put our effort? Me personally, I don't touch accounting. My accounting is reviewing my books once a month when my bookkeeper sends me my P&L and my balance sheet for the previous month. That's the only time that I dig into things. I have a general sense of my cash flow. I have a general sense of my business and how it's running, but I don't get into the day-to-day accounting because that's not where I am going to get my best energy and driving my business. Inventory. I want to focus my inventory, but I want to focus it in the right parts. So do I have IPI issues? Do I have warehousing issues? Do I have long-term storage fees? We're going to go through each of these components and understanding what's really critical and important. I developed all of that into what I call an audit plan. So working with these Amazon sellers across the space. Now, mind you, most of these were million, $5 million, $10 million sellers. And a lot of people say, well, why are you developing your processes based off of million, $5 million, $10, $20 million Amazon sellers? Because they're the ones who are successfully able to get to the level that they got to. And the systems and processes they have input today have gotten them to that level that their business is at. It's called building an economy of scale. And it's very difficult to do when you're just getting started by yourself or you have a small team, because you can't start bringing other people and other systems and other processes in place to start scaling your business. It's a catch-22. You need these systems and processes in place to scale your business, but at the same time, you're so into your business, you can't do it. So what can we learn from the people who have scaled their business, who have been able to build these audit plans? Now, you won't be able to do all of this every day, but these are the things that are critical to your business. Feedback and reviews. It's critical that you understand your feedback and the reviews that you have on your product. Now, again, you don't need to check these every day, but I do recommend you have like a notification set so that anytime a bad feedback or a bad review comes in, you're notified of it. When you do get a review, it's important to note, is that part of a larger problem? Are they telling you something about your listing or about your packaging or about your product that maybe needs to change? It's critical that you look at feedback and review as this canary in the coal mine that really helps to drive your business and where it's going. Now, Amazon has made a lot of changes around messaging compliance, and I want to be very crystal clear here. The latest update that Amazon made, which went into effect the first week of November 2020, made it clear that you, as an Amazon seller, can ask for reviews from your buyers. You have to be careful in the way that you do that. So we've built messaging compliance into our tool so that you can ensure that any messages that you are asking are meeting the compliance necessary. So when you're auditing your feedback and reviews, you're looking for a larger problem from the reviews that you're getting from people. You're looking for suggestions, recommendations, maybe updates that you can be doing to your product so that you're constantly improving your product and its process and the listing. And you're also ensuring that your messages remain compliant. The second audit that you need to be concerned about is the inventory audit. Now, inventory is one of those things that's become, and I would say if it's, it was definitely a part of 2020 that made or broke many sellers. Amazon changed the way IPI score worked, increasing it to 500. They've thus brought it back to 450. But ultimately, if you don't manage your inventory correctly, your amount of inventory at Amazon decreases, your ability to send in inventory to Amazon decreases, and your risk of long-term storage fees increase. So you need to be looking at your inventory and understanding where you have potential risk within your inventory. Do you have long-term storage fees that are coming up? Do you need to possibly run a promotion? Do you have lost inventory or reimbursements that Amazon owes you for? Have there been any changes to your fees or sizes of your product that Amazon is now charging more in FBA fees than what they were charging before? These are all audits that you need to be doing on a regular basis. I recommend, especially for like fee changes or size changes, that you're checking them monthly. Inventory and reimbursement, that you're checking them monthly. Long-term storage, that you're building plans for any products that are getting closer and closer to that 6-month mark. Now, when you're able to identify these, this is where you can start to get money back for your business. You can choose to either use a third-party tool to help you get your reimbursements, or you can apply for these yourself. It's not very difficult. Different people will put different processes in place to help manage that inventory. Your listings are critical and important, and probably recommend one of your daily, or if not weekly, reviews of your listing. So have your titles changed? Have your images changed? Don't just look at your main image, look at your second image. Is it the second image that you want? Do you have a floor and a ceiling set for the listing to ensure that your price is always received at the price that you want? Do you have A+ content? Amazon sellers are great at creating A+ content, but sometimes they launch new products and they forget to add A+ content to it. Do you have a default A+ brand content that you use for 80% of your listings, that until a product gets to a certain point, you don't go spend the time on building A+ content? Let's go back to our head, our torso, and our tail and understand that while I want A+ content for every product, I might not need to spend the time and effort. And if you're not familiar with the category listing report, this is one that you need to be requesting from Amazon. Go into Seller Central, open up a ticket with seller support, ask them for access to the category listing report, and then they will provide you with details on how to access this report. Usually they give you access for 7 days or 30 days. It's a report that you can download and you can see every field that Amazon has available for your product. I recommend that you check this report once a month. It's a great opportunity for you to find additional listing pieces or possible changes to your listing that need to be made. I'm sure I'll get a question about that. I always seem to get one in the Q&A. So I will definitely, sure, we'll come back to that a little bit. The next is the profit audit. When looking at your profit, it's critical that you have this built at your economic level for every SKU. Now, how often this changes or how often you need to be auditing your profit is really dependent on you and your business. You have all these different costs to consider: your overhead, your product, your imports, your duties, your warehouses, your transportation, your insurance, staffing. How often do those fees change? How often do your fixed cost or your variable cost change? It's easy to say that it cost me $1 to buy the widget and I sold it for $5 and therefore I made $4. It's harder to say I bought the widget for $1. Now, how much did it cost me to import the widget and get it all the way into Amazon? Did it sit in a warehouse in between? Did it have merchant fulfilled fees that I need to consider? It's critical that you understand the profit unit at each SKU level so that you can understand not just what is your highest sales product, but what is your highest profit product. Because at the end of the day, profit is what I want to work towards. Some people do get hung up on, I want to 3x my sales. I would much rather 3x my profit than 3x my sales. Next is our traffic plan. Now, I use a little bit of different terminology than other people do. I look at traffic as organic and paid. And the reason why I look at traffic as organic and paid is because they play off of one another. As I generate more organic traffic, I might need less paid, or paid should be more efficient in what it's doing. I look at on Amazon traffic versus off Amazon traffic. What am I doing on my social sites to drive? How are sponsored brands doing versus sponsored products? There are so many different components now to Amazon advertising that I can't just look at advertising in general. I can look at my tacos, but I have to be able to dive into each of these to see how they're specifically doing, to understand what's working and what's not. Am I doing any lives? Am I doing Facebook Live, Amazon Live, Instagram Live? Am I doing posts through Amazon Post? Again, my A+ content, how's that helping my conversion? Have I built out a store? Do I need to theme my store for an upcoming holiday? Do I need to add more photos into my stores? How are my stores doing? What's my overall display ad retargeting? How's that doing? All of these come together into our audit of how our traffic is doing. And it's critical that when we look at our traffic audit, that we're understanding this balance between organic and paid, because that's what we're ultimately going for, is how to grow the overall circle. I need to make the overall circle bigger because that's going to drive more traffic to my listing. Now, the final audit that you need to do, and this is one that a lot of sellers don't do. So if you're going to put something on your list of probably something you haven't done in a while and you should put on your list to do today, this is going to be one that I would strongly recommend. There are 3 settings inside Seller Central that you should look at. In the upper right-hand corner, under user permissions, you can see what's called user access. Under user access, you're going to be able to see all of the people you have given access to your account. These are typically going to be email addresses with a name. They maybe are somebody that you gave access to at one time, or maybe a tool that you gave access to. Now, it's critical that you go into there and you review whether those people should still have access to your account. If you give somebody access to your account and they use it in a way that will get you suspended, you cannot argue, I didn't know that person had access to my account. The second is that you use access to your account for third-party tools. So under your user permissions, the second button down says MWS credentials. MWS is the access credentials that third-party tools like Seller Labs or ShipStation use. But it's critical that you renew these permissions. So I would highly recommend that you go in and you renew these permissions, and maybe that you check these once a quarter to ensure that you do not let them drop. If you let these permissions drop, your access to be able to use a particular tool goes away. This is what controls our access and our ability to access your account. Now, while looking at third-party tools, you can also probably find some that you signed up for at one point in time and maybe you forgot about, or maybe that you're not using, and you can also disable those. So I highly recommend that you take a few minutes and you go in and you look at who has access to your account and what third-party tools. When we talk about all of these audit plans and we talk about the settings of these goals, I always like to talk in a manner of what I call macro versus micro. And are you looking through the right lens? So I know I just brought you back to your basic economics classes from high school, which maybe you were like, but here's what it comes down to. We can look from a macro perspective, the 30,000 foot view of our business, and everything looks like it's going up. I'm getting my 20% growth that I'm looking for on a month-by-month basis. But when I look and I change the lens to a micro lens, what I'm actually seeing is that some of my products are being successful and some of them are not being successful. And so it's critical that when I'm managing my business on a daily basis, that I'm using both this macro view and this micro view to understand how my business is working and whether my business is successful or not. And this is where my Pareto principle comes back into working with my business, because 80% of my time is going to generate 20% of my outcome, whereas 20% of my time is going to generate 80% of my outcome. So I want to put the 20% time spent that's going to get me the 80% of the outcome into the right pieces. And this is what's critically important, is that I understand which ASINs I should be spending my time on, because they're going to drive the outcome that I want. Now, we've taken a lot of this technology. We've taken a lot of this auditing power. We've taken a lot of this idea of the Pareto principle, and we've brought it into the power of Seller Labs Pro. I wanted to take a few minutes here before I wrap up and do Q&A and kind of show you how I use Pro to be able to manage each of these things on a daily basis, and how Pro can actually save you some of that critical time that's necessary so that you're able to focus your efforts on the right parts of your business. So how do you get the most out of Seller Labs Pro? Well, one, you want to set some priorities. Well, you want to set your monthly sales goal, which every month should be changing. You want to set your monthly ad spend goal so that you can track whether you're spending the amount of ads that you are expecting to spend. And you want to check for new notifications. And as you log into Pro, you're going to be able to use all of this information to see if you're on track for the way you're expecting your business to run. Now, in addition to this, we have 4 additional setups that you can go through within Pro. One is your communication setup, to ensure that you have messages set up for each of your ASINs, or a communication strategy. Maybe you don't want to be messaging, you want to do ask for a review. You want to have a notification strategy and understanding different thresholds that you want so that you're notified at the right time. You want to have an advertising strategy and ensure that each of your ASINs are targeting the correct profit that you're going for. And then you want to be tracking keywords and competitors. Now, when you log into Seller Labs Pro, the first thing we're going to be able to show you is how you're tracking against those goals. So you can see here that I'm 32% of my goal, but I'm a little bit short of where I should be for me to pace to the sales that I want. I can also see that I'm a little bit behind in my ad spend. And I can see that I have a new notification that needs to be viewed. This is allowing me to get a quick understanding of my business without diving deeper to see what's going on. As I scroll down into more of my data, I'm now able to see what's happening from a date range. And one of the things that I found critical in talking to different sellers was that each of them use different date ranges to track their sales and success. So some people are looking at a 30-day range. Some people are looking at a 3-day range. Some people are looking at a 7-day range. I can change my date range and I can see how I'm doing in comparison to the previous period of time. Now, it's a little bit harder to do this in January when we're up against our numbers from December, but I do get this clear understanding of how my sales are doing from an organic versus paid, whether my tacos are going up or down, whether I have ad suggestions that need to be reviewed, whether I have new products that have come in, product reviews that have come in over that time period. Here is what I'd say is the MacroMicro view within Pro that gives you the ability to really be super powerful. So within our product catalog, we're able to see our sales, our profits, our margins, and our ad spend to understand how things are doing. And this is my macro view. I'm able to see all of my products across the whole catalog. But using filtering, I can then dive into a specific product if I want and be able to get a better understanding of the sales, the profit, the traffic, the inventory and the notifications for the particular product. And what I want to be able to do within this is I want to be able to say at a macro level, how are things doing, but then be able to dive into the product and see that my sales are dipping, or my profit seems to be off a bit, or that my traffic sessions have dropped, or my conversion rate has dropped, or that I need to invest more into advertising, that I'm getting close to running out of stock and I need to reorder this product, or maybe my cost of goods have changed. All of these things come together at both a product level and a catalog level to help us run our business in a more efficient manner. Now, there's a few more inputs that you can place into Pro that really start to help you get the most out of some of the individual components of the Pro application. So within advertising, you can set your ACost, you can review your suggestions, and you can create strategies. So each of these give you the ability to advertise and market and manage in a slightly different way. So strategies is more of a hands-off approach, where you want the AI of the tool to do everything for you. ACost and review suggestions is more of a review system where you want to be able to see the data and choose when the changes are being made. And all of this comes together within your advertising system to give you, again, the macro and the micro view of what's happening with your ads, giving you the ability to see how you're monitoring towards the goals that you've set and where you need to go spend your time because something isn't performing at the level that it should be performing at. So you have an automatic jump into the number of suggestions or ACost that need to be targeted. And you can dive as deep as you want into a campaign, or you can stay as high level as you want and just manage it from the dollars at the top. Now, the communications, the old bread and butter of Seller Labs Pro was Feedback Genius. But communication has changed so much. And so it's important that you understand which products have active messages, which products are being reviewed for notifications, and which messages may or may not meet messaging guidelines. So being able to review this quickly gives you a good capture of your business and understanding that you're meeting the guidelines for messaging your customers, that you're reviewing and monitoring products, reviews that come in, and that you're actively suggesting and soliciting reviews for your products. Again, macro and micro gives you the ability to see all of the data and dive as deep into a particular message as you want, or to just manage everything from the side. Now, we covered a lot today. We covered the ability to set goals. We covered what type of auditing plan you should have in place for your business. And we also covered how to take all of this information and use it in the Seller Labs tool to start your day off in a way that allows you to focus your energy and your time into the things that are the most valuable for you and your business. I want to thank you for joining me today. And I want to take a couple of minutes before I leave to answer any questions. So give me a minute here. And if you have any questions, go ahead and drop them into the Q&A part of the site. It's easier for me to be able to view them from there. So what is a good ad spend goal? I get this question a lot with regard to ad spend and what is a good ad spend goal. And I think that ultimately you have to understand how the profit of your particular product works so that you can build a goal for ad spend that is in relation to your own profitability. General rule of thumb, you should have somewhere between 10 and 15% to be able to spend on advertising. But when it comes down to it, if you've got really tight margins on your product, that might be too high. If you've got really high margins on your product, you might be at 30, 40, 50% on your ad spend. Let's see. I excel in being the only one selling my product besides a few knockoffs. We have a following of 1 million followers on social media with a direct to consumer taking about 90% of our sales right now. Besides PPC, how can I scale Amazon sales? I know there's a big drop off after Christmas, but what are some little things to scale? We have great reviews so far, just launched in October. Okay, well, thank you for the details. Great, great kind of example there. So it sounds like you have a direct to consumer plan. I think ultimately, when you're looking at a post holiday and what can I do to maybe stir some sales, one, consider running some promotions. So ultimately, you're looking at organic traffic that's driving a lot of your sales, and you're looking at people that are searching for something generically is what you want. And so if the majority of your sales are coming from a keyword that involves your brand, you're probably tapped in terms of what your sales can be. But think about what else your product can be. What are alternative uses for your product? This is where you can start to expand, do some keyword expansion to start having your product be relevant for other areas. It's kind of hard to talk about it in a generic sense, but that's one of the best things to do is to be looking at keyword expansion, alternative uses, foreign language uses of your product that could expand the organic reach and the keywords that are being searched for your product. All right, let's see here. Can you expand on the category report? Yeah, so the category report that I spoke about earlier is a report that you have to ask for within seller support. It's only given when you ask for it, but when you download it, it's a huge flat file of every attribution that can be done for every one of your products. And so it's a very clear and easy way to go through if you have a large catalog of products, as opposed to on Seller Central having to go in, click edit, go through each of the tabs, look at everything. You can just come into this one file and see all of that. So if you think about Seller Central and editing your listing, imagine all of those fields for all of your products all in one flat file that you can make adjustments to. That's probably the easiest way. How can Pro compare data from last year versus same period? So, or can Pro? So I think the answer to that is if you've been on Pro for Pro automatically brings in around, I think 60 or 90 days worth of data. That's the max we're allowed to pull in from the Amazon system. So the longer that you're on Pro, the longer it has the ability to look back into your data. So I was explaining this to somebody the other day. If you look at my account, because I've been on Pro now for a number of years, I can go back 2 or 3 years in my data. And so, yes, if you've just signed up for Pro, you're limited in the look back period that you can look back upon. But if you've been on Pro for a long period of time, that look back period does go back longer. Does the inventory dashboard take into account seasonality of the product? So ultimately, any inventory dashboard, if it's tracking your sales and history over time, is going to take in seasonality. I think ultimately what you're asking is relation to any type of suggestions or recommendations that an inventory system is making. It's one of the more challenging parts of building out a recommendation engine is that everybody has different seasonality to their product. And so ultimately, you have to be able to look at things through a lens that understands your business in a way that others do not and others cannot. So while the data is there over a longer period of time, it's hard for an AI machine to know that this is your 2-week period because you thrive right before the Super Bowl, right? And it's one of the challenges of all the Amazon ecosystem products is that you come off of the holidays, and now you need to readjust your ad spend and your tacos and your A cost based off of how your business is doing now, not how your business was doing then. And so that's where we recommend from that audit perspective that you're constantly looking at different goals. My goals for my tacos might be different in January than they are in December. And so you can't just set one goal across your system and expect to hit that goal every month, because it won't hit the goals that you ultimately need for your business. I'm going to just check the chat here and see if I have any other questions that came in. We will be recording this, so any questions you have will be shared within the recording. Looks like most of the questions that came in from the chat were all answered before. So I want to take a minute and thank you for coming and helping us start your 2021. We're constantly looking to improve our tool and constantly looking to improve the functionality that we make available to you. If you would like to potentially work with our product managers to share your feedback on our tool, go ahead and let us know in the chat. Go ahead and tell us that you'd be up for speaking to a product manager, and our product managers would love to reach out to you. Typically, we'll buy you lunch for doing that, so do make it worth your time and your energy. Hopefully today was worth your time and your effort. I do like to ask for your feedback. So on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the best, 1 being the worst, please let me know how today's webinar was in the chat. I'd love to also know if you're going to give me anything less than a 4, tell me why. What could I have done to improve it? What were you expecting today that didn't happen, so that I can be looking at that and understanding how to improve for the future. Hopefully you got something out of today. Hopefully we were able to show you a little bit something new that Seller Labs Pro can be doing for you. And we look forward to always being here to answer your questions. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to our support team, and we will gladly follow back up with you. Everybody have a great day and a successful start to their new year.